I wonder if you've ever heard this expression: preach the gospel always, and, if necessary, use words. This quotation is very often attributed to St. Francis of Assisi and has become very popular in these days. I think it's pretty clear what it means. Our behavior as Christ followers is a critical element in our testimony of the gospel. Our actions have to match our words, and if they don't, our credibility is seriously damaged. I'd like to push back just a bit against this quotation because I'm concerned it may confuse something of critical importance. Listen to it again. Preach the gospel always, and, if necessary, use words. There's a risk that some may misunderstand this statement to mean that our actions alone are sufficient, and that we don't need to use words, that we don't need to speak out about the gospel. And that is not a complete expression of what the Bible teaches. Recently, I've been studying in the book of Acts, and in chapters 13 and 14, we read about Paul and his colleagues on their first missionary journey. This was a New Testament short-term mission trip, and it took place in what is now modern-day Cyprus and Turkey. What struck me about this passage was the clear emphasis on the proclamation of the gospel. The writer over and again shows us how Paul and Barnabas clearly speak out about the good news. In chapter 13, it says they proclaimed the word of God, and that Paul and Barnabas spoke out boldly. In chapter 14, it says they spoke in such a way that a great number of both Jews and Greeks believed. And later in the chapter, even after having to flee from violent persecution, they continued to preach the gospel. It's evident that in addition to everything else they were doing, Paul and Barnabas were constantly proclaiming with words the good news of the gospel. This is what Peter reminds us of in his letter when he writes, "If someone asks you about your Christian hope, always be ready to explain it, but do this in a gentle and respectful way." So let's be proclaimers, both with our deeds and with our words. Let's act out the gospel and then follow it up with the clear message that Jesus saves. Recently, I had the opportunity to speak on this text at the chapel service at Heritage College and Seminary. A big thanks to President Rick Reed for the invitation. They've got some great students studying there in Cambridge, Ontario. Heritage's mission is to prepare pastors and mission workers for service. You can visit their website by clicking on the link here.